Hi, and welcome to the NBA show. My name is Morten, Jensen, and today you'll finally get to meet Bryan Toporek. Stay tuned. So today you are finally going to meet my podcasting co-host, my great friend, Bryan Toporek. He and I have podcasted together since 2016, and to be more specific, April of 2016. So that's almost 5 years. And Bryan, for the first time, welcome to the video show here, the actual NBA show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. This is actually, I've taken the liberty of basically using our brand to create an external video show. So I think it might be time to actually have you on.
That's fair. Yeah, happy to do this anytime.
Here's the thing. We need to talk about NBA positions, Bryan.
Yes, we do.
In particular when it comes to NBA All-Star positions, because good Lord, is that just I don't even know what to call it, a swamp of snakes?
Are we allowed to curse on this show? Is clusterf
This video has not been monetized because I still have a ways to go. Swear away. Let's the F-bombs fly. It's fine.
I will leave it family-friendly version. Yes, positions in the All-Star game are a cluster F. As we just finished recording a podcast episode where we touched on this briefly, but I think it's worth exploring further to bring up a couple notable examples, and then also a couple guys in the future who should not be in the conversation this year, but a couple years down the line they could be, and it's something we need to address moving forward.
Yeah. Bryan, let's get to it. Who are some of those players?
Yeah, so the first guy that came to mind for me is Jaylen Brown. And I'm going to use Basketball Reference's play-by-play position estimate for all of these figures, because it's like them and cleaning the glass are the best ways to get this type of thing. So Jaylen Brown, his rookie year, played exclusively at forward, 74%, small forward, 26%, power forward. Over the last 4 years, it's basically been a 50-50 split between shooting guard and small forward. So I guess the question is, what is Jaylen Brown? And it kind of depends on a night-by-night basis, whoever he's playing with, like whether Kemba is in the starting lineup, whether, this year Marcus Smart, if it's those two guys, then sure, he's a small forward. But last year when it was Kemba, Tatum, Brown, Gordon, Hayward, and then Daniel Tice, I don't care who is the 2 through 4 in the Hayward, Brown, Tatum mix. And neither does Brad Stevens. He said as much. He's just guard or like ball handler, wing, center. So that's how he's seeing it. And it's relevant because, right now the All-Star selections are 2 guards and 3 front court players in the starting lineup. And I believe for the reserves, it's 2 guards, 3 front court, 2 wild cards. So I would just hate for Jaylen Brown, who is really deserving of a starting All-Star spot this year. I don't think he's going to beat out Giannis or KD in the front court. It would suck if he missed out a starting spot because he's labeled as a front court player instead of a guard, when again, right now, yeah, sure, he's playing a little bit more small forward than shooting guard, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. Just start the 5 best players.
Right. And honestly, if we have the whole 2 backcourt, 3 front court, it just really mimics the old traditional format of having 2 guards and then 3 or 2 forwards in the center, really. It's just a more, I guess, NBA-friendly way to do it. Like, the NBA, it seems, to me at least, are a little bit afraid of just going all out and saying, you know what, screw positions. Let's just go with the 5 best. But honestly, when it comes to All-Star format, I'm just so against the whole position thing. Like, just put out the best players. And if the centers get upset, then the centers need to play better to warrant a spot. I mean, it has to be the best 12 players in each conference. Otherwise, what's the fun in seeing someone with immense talent end up maybe not making the game?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I remember when they got rid of the center position back in the mid-2010s, whenever that was. And, at the time, I think Dwight Howard was one of the best centers, and he spoke out strongly against it. But you fast forward to this year when there is not a designated center spot, and you're telling me Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic are not going to start on the All-Star team this year? Like,
Right.
Of course they are. So it doesn't matter if they're playing at the caliber of these are 2 of the 10 best players in the NBA, which I think both are this year, then we'll still have a center on both sides, and we'll also still get to reward the other best players in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rudy Gobert is more than likely going to make the All-Star game. You could argue a guy like Domantas Sabonis, even though he's sort of a 4 because Miles Turner plays the 5, but very frequently he plays center minutes. He should also be a shoo-in. Bam Adebayo as well. I mean, there is a talent level there. Nikola Vucevic, I can keep going. There are still big men who plays the 5 spot, so that's not really a concern to me. It's just, even if there weren't, then there would be presumably a whole lot of guards or just wings, perimeter-oriented players who would just take their spot, and I would be okay with that. I just think you put a limit on both the creativity, the entertainment angle as well, by getting guys in based on positions. And really, it's not just there, Brian. It's also like all NBA teams. Sometimes that's 2, 2, and 1, right? Or is it also 2 backcourt and 3 frontcourt? I almost forget, but it's still that somewhat old silhouette of how positions used to be.
Yeah, I think all NBA, I believe, is still the 2 guards, 2 forwards, 1 center.
Right. All right.
But yeah, I mean, so you've got people in the Jaylen Brown mold where, okay, you don't know, shooting guard, small forward, doesn't matter, do we care? Like DeMar DeRozan, I think, is in that category. This year he's really moved into more of a power forward role than ever before. So I guess that delineation has become clearer, but over his career, he's played more minutes at shooting guard than he has at small forward or at any forward position. The same goes for Jimmy Butler. I mean, he's logged slightly more minutes at small forward overall. And, this year and last year in Miami, he's been playing exclusively forward. But again, still almost a near even split between shooting guard and small forward for his career. And then there's a guy like Ben Simmons, who's 6'10". They list him as a power forward. He plays as the primary ball handler. So I guess he's a point guard, but I also don't care what position he's labeled as, and he doesn't either. I mean, he has said repeatedly, dating back to the preseason, there were questions of, what are you? Because, Brett Brown heading into the bubble pushed him off the ball, moved him to the quote-unquote 4. And he's like, I don't care, man. I'm a playmaker. Call me whatever you want. I'm just going to have the ball in my hands.
Right. No, and that's a pretty good point. It's the similar thing to Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you go to his basketball reference page, he is legitimately listed at 4 different positions. He only needs to have one season where he plays the center spot, and he will legitimately have all 5 positions named right next to his name there as someone who's played all over. And that's really the crux of the issue to me, is if I ask you, what is Giannis Antetokounmpo's position, you'd probably go, hell if I know. But he's doing a good job, so I don't care. And I think that's the approach we need to take. I mean, Brad Stevens, I think, really has this thing figured out. Ball handlers, wings, and bigs, right? Or center, just a big, I think he calls it. And ball handlers can be anything. If we look at Nikola Jokic, he's a center, right? But he plays like a point guard, so should he be classified as a point guard? Russell Westbrook at the end of, before the bubble, when the Houston went super small, and they actually had that pretty successful small ball era right before the league shut down, Russell Westbrook played like a power forward. That was the way he was setting screens. He was diving to the cup. That was a 6'3" point guard / power forward. Have position more or less just become obsolete.
I think so, and I think it's an issue not just now for the guys who we already mentioned, but you look at a couple up-and-comers, and you can see these issues are only going to continue moving forward. I'm looking at a guy like RJ Barrett, who is basically a 50-50 split between shooting guard and small forward this year. Or I'm looking at a guy like Cam Reddish, who, he played almost exclusively forward last year. This year, almost 40% shooting guard, 60% small forward. So again, what are these guys, and does it matter if they are, if RJ Barrett a couple of years down the line is one of the best players in the NBA, is he going to miss out on an all-star spot because of how the NBA designates him? That seems unfair to me.
Right, and there's also Kate Cunningham coming in next year, who is like a 6'8" playmaker, but is he a traditional one? Is he going to be more of a 3 who just handles the ball? Like, it's all so diverse now, which I personally think is great because it means you get different type of production out of every single player and old school position. Like nowadays, if you have a center, that player isn't limited to backing the ball down into the post for 5 seconds or whatever and ending up with a hook shot. No, now you have a 7-footer dribbling the ball up, almost averaging 9 assists per game. I think Jokic is at, or something along those lines. I mean, the level of creativity that the NBA has seen by opening up the court, I think has been one of their biggest boons over the past decade or so, which is why I'm super surprised and somewhat disappointed that they still keep to this ideology that, in All-Star voting or All-NBA voting, we have to have backcourt, frontcourt. Like, why?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if maybe not this year is the boiling point, because this year is just so weird and it's the All-Star game, it's already going to be controversial. But as we get into this next generation, Cade Cunningham is a great example of, what his position is going to depend on what team he's on and the surrounding talent around him. But yeah, if guys like Barrett, Cunningham, Cam Reddish, if they develop into the type of players who should be all-stars, and then, we start to get to a spot where they get edged out because they're labeled as the wrong position, it wouldn't surprise me if in the next few years the NBA just realizes we are officially in a positionless era. Maybe you change it to just be 1 ball handler, 3 wings, and a big, but then again, you're knocking out, is James Harden a ball handler or is he a wing? Technically a ball handler, I guess, but like he would also fall into the guard designation or the backcourt designation right now. So there's no clean way to do this, I think, other than saying 5 best players, 7 best reserves. We don't care about positions.
Totally agree. Everyone, now you finally met Bryan. He'll be back on later shows again. And if you were interested in listening to our much longer chat, I think we went 100 minutes, maybe something along those lines. Was it maybe 80?
I think it was like an hour and 20.
An hour and 20, there we go. An hour and 20 of NBA hoops chat in all-star positioning. We also ask a weird question about whether or not Mikal Bridges is more influential than Devin Booker. It becomes really weird, but I promise it's a good chat. You can find the link below in the description. So there you have it. You met Bryan. He'll be back, hopefully on a more routinely basis. We're still trying to figure that out. Until next time, this is Morten Jensen from the NBA show signing off. And Bryan, once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I look forward to having a spirited MVP Joel Embiid conversation later this year.
Oh, we'll have it. And Bryan, in the meantime, don't die.